Okay, so here we are on the top of Zayin Amud Aleph, on the first word on the line for a change. Amar Rav Yochanan Mishum Rav Yossi. Rav Yochanan said the name of Rav Yossi. Minayin, how do we know Shakadosh Baruch Hu Mispalel, that God in fact prays? Okay, which is a nice segue now, because we already talked about Hashem's tefillin and the concept of base. We're going to see now of base tefillasi. Shenemar, the verse says, "Ve'hevesim el har kachi," it's my holy mountain. V'samachtim bebeis tefillasi, and you'll rejoice in the house of my tefillah. Tefillah sam, in the house of their tefillah, leinemar, el tefillasi, my prayers. Mikan shakadosh baruch hu mispalel, that God davens. Okay, God prays. Now, obviously, He's not praying in the conventional sense of us praying to God. It's sort of almost like it's exemplary prayer. What prayer is supposed to be. So the Gemara asks, "My matzli, what do Hashem's prayers consist of?" Amar Rav Zutra bar Tuvia Amar Rav. Rav Zutra bar Tuvia said in the name of Rav, Yehi ratzai milufanai. It should be my will, sheyichshavu rachami es kasi, that my mercy should overcome my anger. Viglu rachamai al midasai, and my mercy should be revealed in my midos. Okay, v'hisnaheg im banai midas harachamim. I should use the attribute of mercy in dealing with them. And I should enter them lifnim mishuras hadin, which is a concept of going like sort of beyond the letter of the law, bringing them within, even sometimes within din, meaning even though they deserve a certain thing, I should go out of my way to be extra kind. Says the Gemara Tanya, Rabbi Shmuel ben Elisha. Rabbi Shmuel, the son of Elisha, says he was actually a kind gadol, and he was one of the Harugei Malchus, one of the 10 people who were killed by the Romans. Pamachas, one time, Nechnasti lahaktir ketoras lefnai ulefnim. I went in to bring the ketoret offering in the Beis Hamikdash, in the Holy of Holies. V'isi akasriel ka Hashem tzavakos. I saw God Himself. Okay, the reference to God. Shu Yoshev al Kisei Ram Venisa, who was sitting on some sort of exalted throne. V'Amali, and He told me, Yishmael b'ni, Yishmael, my son. Barucheni, bless me. Amarti le, and I told him, it should be your will, that your mercy should overcome your anger. Basically the same prayer that God prays Himself. You should treat them with mercy. Okay, and the Gemara says, "V'nana li Bareisha," and he shook his head, saying that indeed that's what it should be. The Kamash Malan, and we learn from here that a small man's blessing shouldn't be light in your eyes, and in the sense that even though Shmuel ben Elisha is immortal and God was asking him for his prayer, it shouldn't be taken lightly. Okay, V'amar Rav Yochanan Mishum Rav Yossi. We continue another memra, another saying from Rav Yochanan in the name of Rav Yossi. Minayin, how do we know she'im ratzon le'adam b'shas kasei, that one is not supposed to try to make a person feel good in the time of his anger. You shouldn't try to calm a person down when he's in his state of anger. You shouldn't try, if you hurt him, you shouldn't try to appease him. The verse says, Panai yelchu v'anichosi lach. Okay, this is where Moshe was trying to talk to Hashem. Moshe, wait for me on Shiavru Panim Shalzam, till my face of anger, of rage passes. Okay, and I'll leave you. Says the Gemara, does Hashem get angry? The Gemara answers in Titania Belinda Nebraita. It says V'kel Zayin B'chol Yom, and God rages every day. V'kamazamo, how long is His anger for? The Gemara says Rega, a moment. V'kama Rega, and how long of a moment? How long is a moment? So the first answer is Echad Michameshes Ribua, 1 of 50,000, V'shmoines Alafim, and 8,000, V'shmoinim Meos, V'shmoinim V'shmoina B'shah, which if you add it up is 58,888th of an hour. Okay, V'zuhi Rega, and that's the moment of God's anger. And no one is able to pinpoint that exact second, the exact moment. Chutz mi Bilam Arasha. Bilam, who in the Torah we find tried to curse Klal Yisrael, he knew this exact time during the day when Hashem got angry. It says, V'yadea das elyon, and Bilam knew the mind of God. Okay, now the Gemara says, Hasha das behemtele havayada. He didn't even know the das of his own donkey, right? Das elyon hu yada. His own donkey was pushing him against the wall and trying to stop him from going, and he was getting all angry at the donkey. So he didn't know the donkey's mind. How does he get? He knows what God's thinking. And Malami, we learn the end of the first of the wide lines. Malami, we learn he knew the exact moment when Hashem got angry. And that's what the Navi, the prophet, told the Jewish people, Ami, my nation, Zacharna, Mayoetz, Balak, Melech, Moav. What Balak wanted to do to destroy Klal Yisrael. And at the end of it says, the pasuk says, Laman Stas Tzidkos Hashem, to know the righteousness, the greatness that Hashem had tzedakah on us. And what was that? What was that righteousness? Amar Velazar, Amar Lehem Hakadosh Baruch Hu Yisrael. Hashem told the Jewish people, do know. How much kindness and righteousness I did with you. That I never got angry during the life of Bilam. I never had this moment of anger that he never had during Bilam's lifetime. Because if I would have gotten angry, there would have not been left over from the enemies of the Jewish people. Again, this is a euphemism really referring to the Jewish people themselves. There wouldn't be a remnant or a refuge. There would be nothing left. Okay? That's what Bilam told Balak. What can I do? How can I curse this people that their own God won't let me curse? Is not cursing them. I can't incite anger if Hashem's not getting angry. Milami, we learn Hashem did not get angry. And the Gemara says, how much is his anger? Rega. Another understanding, V'kama rega, and how much is a rega? Amarav avin v'itim ravina rega kememre. The time that it says to say rega. Okay, that moment. Tosfos talks about, that's not very much time. The word rega is, how much can you say of a curse in that time? So what was Bilam trying to do? So you have two answers, that either rega is enough to say kilem. Kilem means destroy them. You can get that word in, kilem. Or all you had to do is actually start the curse during that time, but you didn't in fact have to complete the curse during the time. So as long as you got the beginning of the curse in, you were good. Okay? So now the Gemara continues. Uminalan derega rasach. How do we know that he gets angry for a rega, for a moment? The verse says, "Ki rega bi'apei chayim be'eretz Sinai." There's a moment of his anger, of his flare up, and he brings life at his will. Another verse, the pasuk says, "Chavi rega." Wait for a moment, avar zam, until the anger passes. So you see a moment. The Gemara says, "Ve'emes reis." What is this approximate time? When does it occur, of this anger of God? The first 3 hours of the day. Kichiyura karbalta to tarnagoyla, v'koi echad kura. Okay, when the rooster is in the first 3 hours of the day, when the rooster is standing on one leg, and he has chiyura karbalta, it means the crown of the rooster is in fact white. The Gemara says kol shaita v'shaita nami kayachi. Right? So the Gemara asks, it's always like that. He always stands on one foot, on one leg, and he always has this white crown. The answer is no. Kol shaita isbe shurki sumki, vahishaita lesbe shurki sumki. Every time, every hour, it has like little red speckles, little lines of red on it. But during this moment, it has it turns all white. Okay. Then the Gemara says, Hahu tzeduki. There was this tzeduki. Now the lashon of tzeduki is usually referring to a heretic. Okay, but a particularly bad one, to have b'shavusei of the Shumal Levi, who lived in the neighborhood of Yeshua ben Levi, and have a kamitzar le'tuva b'krai. He used to bring different verses and try to pervert them in a way to create problems for Yeshua ben Levi, and say, well, how do you read this, and how do you read that, from Isaiah 52 and all the different verses over there. You give him a hard time. So he said, I gotta get rid of this guy. He's bothering me, right? But you can't, actively kill him. So he says, I'll curse him. So Yom Echad, one day, Shakar Nagola, he took a rooster, V'ukme ben Kroy de Arsa, he tied it up between the legs of his bed, V'ayin ben, he sat there looking at it from the morning, and Savar, he thought, Kimata Hishaita, I'm going to look at the crown and see when it turns white, completely white, with no red stripes, and when that time comes, Al Taye, I will curse him, and I'll get him. Kimata Hishaita, that exact moment came, and Naim, he fell asleep. So he got the hint, and he said, Amar Shmami, no, you see from here, it's not nice, not proper to do that. Why? Because it says, we try to have Hashem has mercy on all of his creations, so too we're supposed to have mercy and not do such actions. Also the verse says, Gam enosh l'tzadik lo taiv. Okay, that it's not good. The Gemara is darshan for destruction, for punishment to come on the hands of the tzaddik. Okay, Tana Mishmei of Meir. We learn this in the name of Meir. B'shah shacham ezareches, at the time when the sun shines in the morning. V'chol malchim Mizrach u'Ma'ariv, and all the kings of east and west, Menichim Kasreim B'Hashem, they put their crowns on their heads. U'mishtachavim lechama, and they bow down to the sun. Miyad kodesh HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that's when Hashem gets angry. Okay? Rav Yochanan said in the name of Rav Yossi, greater is a self-rebuke. Mardis achas is like a moment of understanding that I'm doing the wrong thing, or a moment of understanding that wakes me up. In the heart of a person, is better than getting a few hits. Shenema, the verse says, V'radfa es me'aveha. The verse is talking about doing tshuva over there, and she's going to run after her lovers, meaning she's going to run after the different idols and different worship things to worship. In the end, Va'amra elcha vashuva l'isha rishon. I'll go back to my first husband. Kitevli as me'atabat Hashem. Okay, Rish Lakish Amar Yitzir Mimei Malk. It's not just a few. It's better than 100 hits. Shenemar Tachas Ga'ara b'Meivin miHakois K'sil Me'ah. Better is a moment of musar, of Ga'ara, is like screaming, of internal strife that a person comes to his own awareness, and a person who understands miHakois K'sil Me'ah than hitting a fool 100 times. He gets the hint better. So this moment of like self-induced guilt is a far better and more appropriate, and it's the way to go, better than hitting people. Okay, so the Gemara says, "V'amar Rav Yochanan mishum Rav Yossi." Rav Yochanan says in the name of Rav Yossi, "Shlosh devarim pikish Moshe l'fnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu." 3 things Moshe asked from Hashem, v'nasan, and He gave it to him. Okay, what were they? Biksha shetishra Shechina al Yisrael. He requested that the Shechina should rest on the Jewish people. V'nasan, and He gave it to him. Shneimar halei b'lechtecha imanu. Okay, that you walk with us. He requested that the Shechina should not rest on the Goyim, and He gave it to him. It says, okay, he wanted to know the ways of Hashem. The understanding how Hashem has din and becheshbon in the world. God judges, and He gave it to him. The pasuk says, okay, let me know your way. Rabbanan Shalom, he wanted to know. How come you find a tzaddik who has a good life, and there's a tzaddik who has a bad life? Rasha v'tola, there's a Rasha who has a good life, Yesh Rasha v'rala, Rasha has a bad life. So Amar Loi, and he told him, Moshe, tzaddik v'tola is a tzaddik ben tzaddik. A tzaddik who has a good life is a tzaddik, the son of a tzaddik. A tzaddik v'ralo is a tzaddik ben Rasha, who is a father who is evil. Rasha v'tovlo, a Rasha who has a good life is a Rasha ben tzaddik, the Rasha the son of a tzaddik. Rasha v'rala is a Rasha ben Rasha. Okay, and then the Gemara continues. Amar Mar, tzaddik v'toile, tzaddik ben tzaddik. Tzaddik v'rala is a tzaddik ben Rasha. Eini, could that really be? Is that so? The pasuk says we have a steer of a contradiction. One verse says, Paked avon avos al banim. Okay, that you will get punished for the sins of the children, for the sins of their father. Another verse says, "Ubanim lo yamusu alavois," that the children won't die for the father's sins. For Amina and Kreya Dadi, we contradicted 2 psukim to each other. Vishanina, and we answered loy kasha. It's not actually a question. Why? Here, where they're going to get punished for their father's sins is when they actually continue doing the sins of their father. When they're not holding they're not holding their father's sins in their hands. Okay? This is what he told them. Tzaddik v'tov lo. Why do you have a tzaddik who has a good life? Is a tzaddik gomor. It's a complete tzaddik. So he has a good life, this world and in the next. Tzaddik v'ralo, a tzaddik who's basically righteous, but he has a tough life, is a tzaddik she'ena gomer. So he needs some purging, he needs some tikkun, a fixing in this world. So Hashem rather give him the punishment in this world, so he can be completely clean for the next world. Rasha v'tovla, Rasha who has a good life, is a Rasha she'ena gomer. He's not a complete Rasha. So Hashem gives him whatever good that he has coming to him in the next world, in this world, so as to feed him off and not owe him anything. And a Rasha v'ralo is a Rasha gomer, so he gets bad in this world and in the next. Says the Gemara, Pligid Rameir, and this in fact is a argument with the direct opinion of Rameir. Rameir Shtayim Nasnule. Hashem actually only gave him 2 things. He gave him the 2 of the things that he traveled with, that the Shechina was with the Jewish people, and the Shechina wasn't with the Goyim. But the 3rd thing that he wanted to know how Hashem runs the world with din, he did not give to him. Okay? The Pasuk says, I will have graciousness to those that I want to grace, that even though they're not befitting. I will have mercy on those who I have mercy, even though it's not befitting for them. Meaning, my din is random, you're not going to understand my din. Okay? The Pasuk says, you cannot see my face. Tana, we learned, Mishmei Rav Shimon Karcha, Kacha Malei HaKadosh Baruch Hu Moshe. So said Hashem to Moshe, Kisher Ratzisi Loi Ratzisa. When I wanted to show you my face, my way, with the burning bush, we learned that Moshe turned away. You didn't want. Achshav Ne'asha Atarotza. You want. Any Rotza. I don't want to show you my face. Okay? This is argues with the opinion of Rav Shmuel bar Nachmani. Amar Rav Yonasan, Amar Rav Shmuel bar Nachmani, in the name of Rav Yonasan. Beschar shalosh zachar l'shalosh. In the reward for 3 that he did, he was zocher to 3 things. What were they? Beschar vayaster Moshe panav. That Moshe turned away his face and didn't look at the burning bush. Right? Zachar l'klaster panav. He had a certain shine on his face. The pasuk says he had to actually wear a mask because his shine was so bright. And B'schar ki yareh, that he feared Moshe, feared Hashem. Zachali v'yer megeshes alav. The Jewish people were afraid of going to Moshe directly. And B'schar mi ma'abit zachal t'muras Hashem yabit, that he was able to see the back of Hashem's neck, as we'll see now. Marisi is kapi. I will turn my head. Marisi is achar. You'll see my back. Amar Rav Chana bar Bizna. Amar Rav Shimon b'Chasidim, the name of Rav Shimon Chasidim, Malamed Cher HaKadosh Baruch Hu LaMoshe Kesher Shel Tefillin. Hashem showed Moshe the back of the knot of his tefillin that Hashem wears. Okay? Amar Rav Yochanan, Mishum Rav Yossi, Rav Yochanan said the name of Rav Yossi again. Kol Dibur v'Dibur, everything that Hashem says, Yotzim Pi HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that comes out of the mouth of Hashem, Latova, for good, if Hashem makes a promise, Afilu al Tanai, even if it's based on a certain premise, that God says, I'm going to give you this, if this and this happens, even if the Tanai, the premise, the reason why, which predicated what Hashem wanted to do, is taken away, doesn't actually apply anymore. Lo Chazar by Hashem does not change his mind. He doesn't change the reality. Minalan, where do we know that from? Moshe Rabbeinu. Shneimar, the verse says, Heref mimeni v'ashmidem. Hashem was angry at the Jewish people, and he said, let me go, and I will destroy them. You're good, Moshe. I'll make you into a great nation. 3 lines from the bottom of the Amud, even though Moshe davened to Hashem, and he was mevatel the decree that Hashem didn't destroy Klal Yisrael, he fulfilled in his descendants this great nation. Shneimar, the verse says, Bnei Moshe, Gershom, Eliezer. The children of Moshe were Gershom and Eliezer, V'yu Bnei Eliezer, Rechavia Rosh, Bnei Rechavia Rabu Lamala. And the children of Rechavia were many, and it uses a language of Rabu. Vitani Rav Yosef learned, Lamala, how many were they? Lamala Meshishim Riboy. There were more than 600,000. Asya Rivya, we have Gzer Shava of the 2 words. Ksiv Hacha Rabu Lamala, Ksiv Hasam of Bnei Yisrael Peru Vishutzu V'yirvu. So the same lashon of Yirvu is, we know that Klal Yisrael was 600,000 people. So Moshe himself was able to have 600,000 descendants, even though he the Tanai that Hashem said, I'm going to destroy Klal Yisrael, wasn't fulfilled. Okay, so we turn the page to the next Amud. Amar Rav Yochanan, Mishum Rav Shimon bar Yochai. And now we turn to Rav Shimon bar Yochai. Miyom shecharav HaKadosh Baruch Hu Sa'olam, from the time Hashem destroyed the world, Lo haya adam shekar LaKadosh Baruch Hu Adon. No one called Hashem the Master. Ad Sheba Avram v'kara Adon. Shneimar, the pasuk says, Vayomer Adonai b'ma eda kirashena. How do I know that I will inherit? Okay, so that was the first time that he called Hashem a lashon of a master. Okay, Amar Rav says, Af Daniel, also Daniel, Leinena Ela B'Shvil Avram, was only answered in his prayers because of Avram. Shneimar, the verse says, V'at Shema Elokeinu El Tfilas Avdecha. Now Hashem, listen to the praise, the prayers of your servant. Into supplications, and light your face on your sanctuary. Hashem Laman Adonai. Okay, and it says Laman Chami Ba'ilei, that was made for you. It should have said, why does it say Adon? For the sake of Avram, who called you the master. Another memra. How do we know, as we had on Amud Aleph, the same concept, that you shouldn't try to calm someone down during his state of anger? The pasuk says, okay, wait till I calm down, and then we can speak. HaKadosh Baruch Hu Salamar, from the time that Hashem created the world, Lo haya adam shahodah HaKadosh Baruch Hu. No one gave hodah to Hashem. Okay, Ad Sheba'asa Leah, until Leah came, Vahodaso, and praised him. Shnemar Apam Oda es Hashem. Now I will praise Hashem. So obviously, Rashi points out that there was plenty of people who praise Hashem. You had Noach, Avram, Adam, lots of people before Leah who praised Hashem, but she was the first person to use the lashon, the language of Hodah. Now why? Because we find that she saw in prophecy that Yaakov had 4 wives, right? And from the 4 wives, there were supposed to be 12 shvatim, 12 tribes. So 12 divided by 4, each one of the wives was actually supposed to have 3 children. So when she had Reuven, Shimon, Levi, and then she had a 4th son, and she named him Yehuda. Okay, and Rashi says Yehuda is a language of Hoda'ah, because Hoda'ah is a reference to when one receives more than they're supposed to receive, more than they deserved. Okay, so she was the first person to give Hodah to Hashem. Then the Gemara continues, the 2 dots. Reuven, why did she name her son Reuven? Amar Rav Elazar, Amar Leah, Leah said, Ru'u ma'abein bini lebein chami. Reuven's from the language of Ru'u bein, see my son. See how different my son is than my chami is my in-law, my mother-in-law's son. Why? Dilu ben chami, my mother-in-law's son, which was Yaakov and Esav, reference to Esav, Avagav demidate, even though he willingly, Zavne l'demchirte, he sold the firstborn. He sold his right to the firstborn. Esav sold Yaakov the right to the firstborn. Chazu, see, Maksibe, what the verse says, Esav is Yaakov. He hated Yaakov for it. V'ksiv, and the verse says, Vayomer hachi kar shemo Yaakov yakveni zepalmayim. He called him tricker because he stole the bechor from me. Even though he gave it to him willingly, he was so upset. Okay, v'ilu b'nei, my son, Reuven, afagav da'al karchei shakli Yosef lebecherte. Even though Yosef took away the bechor from him, and it wasn't willing. Meaning, we know from the story, the verse says, "V'chala yitzui aviv," when Reuven, for whatever the misdeed, the misaction that he did when he switched around the beds, with the story of the Judaim, he lost the right to the Bechor, right, against his will. It was given to the children of Yosef. Okay, Nasna Bechor to Lebnei Yosef. Afilu hachi, even so, lo yekana bei, he was never jealous and he was never angry. In fact, Reuven was the one who planned to save Yosef from the hands of his, from the when he was in the pit, he was going to come back. Okay, so the Gemara says Rus. Why is her name Rus? My Rus. What does the word Rus mean? David. She was zocha to have David come out of her. Shirivu, the word Rus could mean also Rivu. And he lauded out to Hashem in song and in praise. Okay, and we know that Rus was the daughter-in-law of Naomi, Rus and Orpah, and they were married to Machlon and Vikilyon, and after the famine finished and they came back, Orpah went back, and in fact she had 4 sons. One of her sons actually was Goliath, okay, who later on fought David, and Rus for the schar for coming back and sticking with Torah and sticking with Klal Yisrael with through Naomi. She was able to have David HaMelech. Okay, then the Gemara says Minala in the first wide line, Minala and Deshmagar. How do we know that a name makes a difference, that there's a power to names? The names aren't a happy chance, that a name is actually the definition of the soul of the person. Amar Rav Elazar, the Amar Kra, the pasuk says, Lechu, go, chazu, and see, mifalois Hashem asher sam, samois ba'aretz, okay, that which is when Hashem put destruction on the land. And we don't read it destruction, al tikri samois, ella shemois. Put names in the land, and therefore the concept of names are significant, what the person's name is. Rav Yochanan said the name of Rishon Yochai. Kasha tarbis ra besoch beitzer shel adam. Worse is something bad happening in the house of a person. We'll see what this means in a minute. Yosem Milchamas Gog Magog. The reference of Gog Magog is the war of the end of the days, which is going to be unprecedented in regard to the loss and suffering of human life, and when someone has something bad, a fight in his house, a fight with family members, it's worse than that war. Shenema, the verse says, Mizmar leDavid b'vracha b'fnei Avshalom b'nei. We know David had a son Avshalom who rebelled against him, like we learned through the Achitophel rebelled against his father, ran after to kill him actually. And the verse says after, Hashem Rabu Tsarai. David writes in Tehillim, how great are my pains, Rabim Kamim Alai. How there's many that are getting up against me. Vilu Gabim Mechamas Gog Magog, by the war of Gog Magog, in reference to it, it says, Lama Rik Shugoyim Lu'umim Yehu Garik. Okay, it says why are the nations being incited and all the people coming up to basically to destroy us? But it doesn't say my Rabu Tsarai Liksif. It doesn't say how bad are my pains. Okay, now the Gemara says Mizmar LeDavid Bevrach Mifnei Avshalom, so a song for David when he ran away from Avshalom his son. Says the Gemara Mizmar LeDavid. Kina LeDavid mibayli, should have been a lamentation. A kina is a sad note. It shouldn't have been a happy one. Amar of Shimon ben Avshalom, Mashal Amar Adavar Dema. What can you compare it to? A parable to one Shiatza Alav Shtar Chov. A person has a bounty written on his head. He has a paper that he has to pay a certain amount of money, or he has a Shtar Chov. He has something he has to repay. Kodim Shipareo Hayatzav. He's very upset. He's always sad. He's depressed. How is he going to pay it? After he pays it, Samach, he was happy. Okay, so what does that mean? David came in Shamlei Baruch Hu. Once Hashem told him, Hineni mekim alecha ra mi beisecha. Hashem says, I'm going to put evil in your house. Haya Atzav, he was very depressed. Amar, he said, Shema Eved Imamzerhu Delechayas Alai. Maybe it'll be one of my servants or some sort of bastard who's gonna rebel against me, who's gonna catch me, and who's gonna torture me forever. He's not gonna have mercy on me. Kevan Dechazad Avshalom, once he saw that it was Avshalom, the one who rebels, Samach, he was happy because it's his son and he was gonna be nice to him. Shamhachi Amar Mizmar. So the Mepharshim explained that, Avshalom wasn't exactly nice to him. He was actually running after his father to kill him. It wasn't so pleasant, so why was he so happy? But they explained that David HaMelech was trying to understand that if it was from Hashem. So he said, if it was the Eved, if some servant rebelled, then I can understand, it's sort of natural in the kingdom. So one of the servants gets up and tries to poison you or rebel against you. But your own son is such an unnatural occurrence. It's such a freak kind of thing that your own son would rebel against you to this degree that he wanted to kill his father. David said it must have been from Hashem, and this was kapara for the different deeds that David needed tikkun for. Okay? Now the Gemara continues. Amar Rav Yochanan says, B'Shimon Rav Shimon Yochai, in the name of Rav Shimon Bar Yochai, Mutter lehizgaris b'Rishayim b'Olam hazeh. One is allowed to instigate, to start fighting with Rishayim in this world. Shenemar oizvei Torah, one who abandons the Torah, Yahalu l'Rasha. Okay, the evil one will praise. V'shomrei Torah yizgaru bam, but the people who guard the Torah will instigate, will start up with them, fighting with them. Tanya Nami Hachi, we learned in another brayser of the study by Masanaymer, Mutter l'Sgaris b'Shalom b'Olam hazeh. You're allowed to start up with them. You're allowed to fight with them. Shenemar, the verse says, oizvei Torah Yahalu l'Rasha. Okay? Now, ve'imlach sheikh adam lomar. If someone whispers to you and says, v'haksiv, the verse says, al tisachah b'mereim al sakane b'osei ovla. Which seems to say, don't go after people who are doing bad. Don't start up with them. Okay? Don't fight with them. Emar lo, as the Gemara says, Emar lo, tell him, misha libay neikfei kain emar kain. Okay? One whose heart is beating hard says that. Only a person with a guilty conscience, who's afraid that there's some evilness in him, who's afraid that you're going to start up with him, he's the kind of guy who says that. Ella, you know what that verse means? Al tisachah b'mereim, don't go after evildoers. Lihiyos k'mereim, don't go after them to be like them. You can certainly fight with them. Al sakana, don't be jealous, bosei avla, for those who do wrong. Lihiyos kosei avla, to be like them. But over in the verses, al yikana libcha b'chatayim, you shouldn't be jealous of people who are sinners or people who do sin. Kim b'yiras Hashem kol hayom, be only concerned with fear of God. Says the Gemara, Eini, is that true? V'hamar Rav Yisrael says, if you see an evil person, shehasha misachekes lo, that the hour is laughing for him, meaning he's driving a Ferrari and life seems good for him. Al tizgarabo, don't start up with him. Shenema, the verse says, Yachilu Jerachav b'chol es. His ways are, he's doing okay. Everything's going well for him. Not only that, if you start up with him in court, he's going to win. Sheneramar maro mishpatecha minegdo. The justice is mishpat, is the judgment is up against him. V'lo'id ella sheroya b'tzaref, he'll see his enemies fall. Shenemar kol tzaref, all of his enemies, yafiyach behem, he'll just be able to blow them away, just very easily repel them. So you see that you shouldn't start up with him. So the Gemara answers, Loikasha habamili today, habamili dishmaya. If you see a Russian evil guy whose business is prospering, don't try to go into competition with him, because he'll maybe wipe you out. But b'mili dishmaya, you could fight with him about doing mitzvahs and about the fact that he's far from God. Alternatively, it's both talking about mila dishmaya, okay, about spiritual things. If it's just a plain Russia who's living life, you should definitely start up with him. But if it's a Russia who's being particularly successful, you shouldn't. Alternatively, a third alternative, both are talking about talking about an evil person at the hour is laughing for him, that he's doing well. For Laikasha, it depends who's fighting with him. If it's a tzaddik gomer, he could start up with him and not be afraid. But if it's tzaddik she'ena gomer, he shouldn't do it. Tamar Rav Huna said, what does the verse say? Lama sabit bogdim, tach bebela tzaddik bebela Rasha. Right? Why are you sitting there staring when the rebellers, the evil people are swallowing the Rasha? So the Gemara answers, Tzaddik mimenu. The Gemara says, V'chi Rasha b'lei tzaddik. Does an evil person swallow a righteous person? Hashem will not abandon him to his hands. V'ksiv, in the verse says, nothing, bad thing will happen to him. The tzaddik will get swallowed, but the tzaddik gomor, the completely righteous person, will not get swallowed. Like we said, it depends whether things are fantastically well. If things are fantastically well for him, you shouldn't start up with him. And the Gemara continues, whoever sets a permanent place for his tefillah, he davens in the same place every time. His enemies will fall underneath him. Shenema, the verse says, "V'samti mamakom la'ami Yisrael, v'nita'osiv, and I will plant them, v'shachein tachtav, v'layirgaz od, v'layosifu b'nei avla la'anosei ka'asher b'rishona." They won't get bothered. The enemies will have no chance of bothering us. Rav Huna had a contradiction in verses. Ksiv, one says la'anusei, v'ksiv l'ka'alosei. La'anosei means to pain them, and one says to destroy them. So which one will it be? The Gemara says, "B'tchila lano." So in the beginning, they try to pain us. In the end, they try to in fact destroy. Okay, so that's what the Gemara says, that the importance of being kaveya makom l'tfila. Just to note here, he talks about Bilam and Rasha and Avram, and the contrast of Avraham and Bilam is brought in really in Pirkei Avot. It talks about the students of Avram, and one of the defining characters of a student of Avram is someone who's ultimately a person who has a non-haughty, a modest kind of personality, and the students of Bilam are people who are exceedingly haughty. So we see that it comes down to what happened with Bilam. The story there is he tried to curse Klal Yisrael and it didn't work. He said, "I'll come back," and he tried to move places. He said, "I'll go stand in another place, and maybe I'll be able to, here be able to curse them worse." So, like we said, he tried to blame it on other things other than the fact that Hashem didn't want him to curse Klal Yisrael. Versus Avraham, who came back to the same place and continued to daven. Okay, so the Gemara says, "Amar Rav Yochanan, Mishum Rav Shimon Yochai." Rav Yochanan said the name of Shimon Yochai. Greater is serving Torah, meaning serving one who learns Torah, better than learning it. Shenemar, the verse says, "Po Elisha ben Shaphat," on the gravestone instead of Elisha, it said, "Here lies Elisha, asher yutzak mayim al yedei Eliyahu," who poured water on the hands of Eliyahu. Lomad loinemar, didn't say that he learned Torah from Eliyahu. Yutzak, that he poured water. Melamed shegadol shimusa yosem milimuda, that's in fact greater to serve a Talmid Chacham than to just learn, because really the tafkid of limud is being able to implement into our daily life the tenets of the Torah and the halacha. So to be able to see Torah live is actually greater. Okay, we'll just go a little bit further. Amalei Rav Yitzchak Rav Yitzchak told Rav Nachman, "My time loy asi mar lebei kanishta litzliye." Why didn't you come to shul to daven? So Amalei, he told him Leichilna was not able to. It wasn't feeling well. Okay? Amalei, he told him Lechanfi Lamar Asara Velitzli. You should have tried to get a minyan in your house. Get 10 people and daven there. Amalei, he told him Tirchali Milsa. It would have been a pain to try to find 10 people. So he said, mar l'shlucha. You should have told a messenger, the tzibura, debe'idna, dematzli tzibura, le'siviliute. You should have told the gabe the shul to send someone when they start davening to tell you exactly the time that they were going to begin davening, and then you could have at least davened at the same time. Amalei, my kulahai, why are you driving me so crazy with this? Why is this such a big deal? Amalei, Amar Rav Yochanan, Mishum Rishon Rechai, like we said the name of Yochanan, the name of Rishon Rechai. What does it mean, the verse that says, Va'anit tfilasi lacha Hashem es ratzon? My prayers to you, Hashem, during the time of will. What is this time of will? When Hashem listens to the prayers, the time when the tzibur is davening. So there's a special thing, and he said so much so that you should actually daven during the time that the tzibur is davening, even if you can't be with the tzibur. Okay, so we'll take it from here tomorrow.